Guys, welcome back to Watch News Weekly. Having just come back from Geneva Watch Days more specifically, certainly a lot of news out there. I picked a few stories that were outside of that, or somewhat inside of that, just because there's another video coming out on Wednesday that's going to show you the entire trip, and you'll get a lot of news there as well on my channel. Of course, there are some interesting news, and the big buzz around the internet was, oh my God, Rolex is putting microchips into watches. Rolex Passion Report posted on Instagram stating that they believe that Rolex will be inserting microchips into watches using blockchain technology to track watches. I call bullshit on that right away. There's no way, A, you're going to stop putting microchips into mechanical watches, number one. It just kind of goes away from the whole, handmade thing. You want a watch that, will track your health and track your watch. Obviously, buy an Apple Watch, right? Not that I'm knocking on an Apple Watch, one of the greatest inventions out there. But the other thing is privacy. Who the hell wants to buy a watch and now be tracked by having a microchip in there? This whole thing started from the fact that they were granted a patent, okay, that was described as a method, and I quote, a method for managing data associated with a timepiece belonging to a user. The data comprising personal data of the user and data specific to the timepiece. Would make you think, oh, now they're tracking everything, right? Rolex's patent actually described a unique identifier, serial number, and that this patent is better than a blockchain system, whatever that means. Now, the patent diagram shows a unique identifier serial number at 9 o'clock in the watch, which is connected to the warranty card that stores all the information about ownership, the watch, and the service history. Now, our research determined that there's no chip in the watch, only a serial number. The card could have an NFC chip or a QR code or a barcode or even RFID tag. They covered all the bases kind of thing. So that corresponds to the serial number. And then the purpose of the system is to simply after-sales service communication. Now, it's still a little bit scary because here's what happens. If there is a tracking device in the digital card, be it RFID. Now, RFID cannot really transmit long distances. RFID transmits short distances. It allows you to scan stuff, right? But if there is some kind of a microchip that's going to, send out alerts as to where the card is, that's opened up a big can of worms in terms of privacy. This opens up a can of worms for dealers. This opens up a can of worms for resellers now because that card adds value to the watch and therefore the watch can be tracked. Now, if all they're doing is put an RFID in there, so when the watch comes in for after service and all they have to do is scan the card to make sure that's real, that's okay. Anybody can buy an RFID scanner and scan it and get the information on the screen through a multitude of apps, right? But this is a very, very thin line on two levels. Number one, adding something electronic to a mechanical watch, number one, and number two, the whole privacy situation. I highly doubt that this is an attempt to track authorized dealers, resellers, private clients, et cetera, et cetera. This is simply an easier way to taking out watches more efficient through having RFID technology. I'll give you the perfect example. We'll move on to the next topic. So downstairs we have a bank vault, right? Which is where we keep all of our watches and all our jewelry to the tune of thousands of pieces. At one point, I actually considered moving to RFID technology versus scanning a regular UPC code that's on the tags on all of our watches and jewelry, because what RFID can do is you can literally scan one tray at a time. So think about how much easier inventory would be if I took a tray of jewelry that has 48 rings, I put it in this, it's literally a microwave looking thing where it scans them all in and gives you an output whichever way you want. That output can be in Excel, it can tie to a program, numerous options, right? Also for movement of pieces around the office, you can actually put in a frame in a vault where as someone, let's say I come into the vault, I scan my fob if I have access to the vault, right? So it knows that Roman Sharp came into the vault, and Roman Sharp picks up a tray of something, 5 watches, 10 watches, whatever, walks out of the vault, and it gets scanned out that, hey, Roman Sharp just walked out of the vault. Those frames can be put in throughout the office where you can actually track movements of everything that goes on. They do this at the manufacturers. One of the manufacturers I visited, at least not done. On the assembly line, as movements and components are moving around to different watchmakers, there's an RFID chip, so the system knows at any given time where a particular component or part or a movement is throughout the manufacturer. Really good technology, really useful, but also very, very expensive, which is why I stuck with my little tags, because I didn't want to spend $1 million putting all this stuff into my office. It's just not necessary for my use. But for somebody like Rolex that puts out 1 million watches a year and probably takes a 500,000, God knows how much in for service, probably a great idea. Next piece of news. We're going to talk about Switch. There was an article that kind of went viral and everybody saying, that's it, the Swiss watch industry is dead and so on and so forth, about Swiss watchmakers seeking state aid. The people that were willing to talk about it were the Sowin Group, the guys that own Girard Perregaux and Ulysse Nardin. During COVID, every single Swiss watch manufacturer pretty much laid off 100% of their employees. It's not like unemployment here in America. You still get to keep all your benefits because those are provided by the government, and you get 85% of your pay. Where in America, it's like set to a max amount per week. Over there, it's set to basically you get 85% of your pay while staying at home, right? And this is something that happens very, very often in manufacturing, and especially in Switzerland. A lot of the manufacturing is watch manufacturing. So when business is down, you have the ability to cut down your expenses while the people are still enjoying pretty much their entire paycheck, right? And that way you are able to manage staying afloat, because the biggest expense here is what? Employees. Ulysse Nardin employs over 300 workers, so they didn't let go. They put about 50 people on leave. What this does, it's a really good system, is it helps twofold. It helps the business stay afloat, and it also helps the people stay afloat. In America, if I send somebody on unemployment, they A, lose the benefits, i.e. health benefits, dental benefits, or whatever other benefits we give, and B, they don't even get half their pay. There's a ceiling of how much you can get. So when COVID hit here at Luxury Bazaar, I did not let go of a single individual. I did not put a single individual on unemployment. Instead, what I did is I cut out my own personal pay and my business partners to the tune of about 9 months, to allow my people to stay here, because I knew if I sent them on unemployment, A, they wouldn't get enough money, B, they would lose their benefits. And my take on this was, these guys were here for me when times were good. I need to be there for them when times were bad. That's why not a single person here got let go during that COVID scare or freeze for the first 4 or 5 months. Had we had a system like they had in Switzerland, then I wouldn't feel bad about it. I would literally say, hey guys, we're gonna hold off for 6 months. You get most of your pay, keep your benefits, come back, things will be better. This will be better for the company, and everybody would be happy. Where's it all stemming from? We talked about this in multiple episodes now. It's China, right? China is down about 30%. So when things get better in China, you're gonna see that all go back up. People go back to work. DeBETHUNE dominated the U.S. Open. What a smart move by the company. It's all about the amount of eyes you get on certain products. It's all about who's wearing a particular product. It's all about saying, hey, I have a product, I want to get an X amount of eyes on it, and these are the type of eyes that I want, and I think I can do well, right? Of course, U.S. Open, Tommy Paul, right? Currently number 14. He became an official brand ambassador at Wimbledon last year, and has been known to make an appearance on DeBethune's Instagram from time to time. Now, mind you, these players are wearing these watches. So he wore the watch, and he reached a round of 16 before falling to Jannik Sinner, if you guys watch the U.S. Open. Now, the further they go, the better it is for the brand, because the further up you go in a tournament, the more eyes are on you. Some of the matches that come in the beginning, they're not really on some of the major networks, and not a lot of people go to see them physically while Flushing Meadows, right? Emma Navarro was another one. She's a number 13 seed. She wore the DeBETHUNE throughout her Cinderella run to the women's semifinals. That's a lot more eyes. And of course, also wearing DeBETHUNE was the number 6 seed and fellow American Jessie Pigula. Now, Paul and Navarro both wore the Starry Seas DB28. This was released last year as the first watch to feature a random gouache titanium dial. Pretty complicated thing to do, by the way, but that's not what this is. That's not what this piece of news is about. That retails for about 90 grand, and Pigula opted for the DB28 Purple Rain. This was launched early this year. I showed you that watch when I was at Watches and Wonders. Again, this was a limited edition of just 25 units, retail for $99,000. And the very first thing I asked while I was at DeBETHUNE was like, how did you achieve this color? And this is what DeBETHUNE is all about. They're about achieving certain colors through their heating process, especially their blue stuff. That just makes you wonder how they did it. DeBETHUNE is aligning themselves with a certain set of eyes in order to push their product forward, and that works. Look how well that did for Richard Mille and Rafael Nadal. Influence is a bitch, as they say, and Mark Zuckerberg finally ditched his Apple Watch, a smartwatch. I don't know which smartwatch he normally wore. Zuckerberg, who, I don't know, is third, fourth richest man in the world right now. They all go back and forth. I think at that level, it doesn't really matter, especially to people like us. Certainly, I'm sure it matters to them. But he was recently seen in a shot wearing a 5236 Platinum Perpetual Calendar. It's a watch that retails for $141,000, which I'm sure he paid full retail for, which I could have sold him for a lot less, but I don't have him on speed dial, unfortunately. All started when he met Ambani at his wedding, right? And he was showing off his 5602 Sapphire. By the way, if you guys didn't catch my video on the most expensive Richard Mille, I talk about that watch on there. I think Ambani paid under 5 million for that watch, 4.5, 4.6, I don't remember, right? And he was like taken back by it. And I think Mark finally said, well, yeah, I'm a billionaire. I'm the top 5 richest men in the world. Maybe I should start spending some of the money that I have and start flexing a little bit. Because often you see Zuckerberg walking around with like $5 pair of flip-flops and just a plain Jane t-shirt and a pair of jeans. He's a very humble guy, and I respect that a lot. If I had his money, I would probably be wearing suits made out of solid gold. No, I wouldn't. But very humble guy. We all know him as that. Again, at least that's the visual that we get from social media and whatever we see in the media in general, right? We don't know what this guy does behind closed doors, circles he hangs in, and who knows, maybe he has a $50 million watch collection, right? But he did comment, and I quote, "You know, I never really wanted a watch, but after seeing that, I was like, watches are cool. So I think we're going to see Zuck going down a slippery slope. I'm just hoping he contacts Luxury Bazaar for his purchases. We will spend your money well for you, right?" He's evolving a little bit. Again, I think he's he did transition from the drab gray t-shirts to, you know, printing styles. So that's a little bit more rock and roll for him. And he bought a $300 million super yacht. The Shadow Vessel, right? This is like the boat that follows you and like carries stuff for you and takes you back and forth from places. That boat was $30 million. Most people don't spend $30 million on a yacht, but that was his Shadow Vessel. That's when you have when your Shadow Vessel is $30 million. That's when you kind of know you made it. So look, we're seeing Zuckerberg spend a little bit of money, but because he's a conservative person, I don't know him personally, but based on what you've seen out there over the years, you see that the guy's extremely conservative. You know, him starting to spend a little bit of money actually makes me happy, specifically because he's doing in the world of horology, because I believe that a guy like Mark, once he gets into it, once he starts to understand horology, once he starts understanding watchmaking, it is a slippery slope for anybody. But to have a face of Mark Zuckerberg behind a hobby of watch collecting is very, very important in the industry, regardless whether he buys from us or not, which he probably won't. Simone Biles, another one, right? We've seen her wearing the Royal Oak Mini. It took a while, but you know, small pieces are becoming cool again. I think on the back of Cartier, I would give credit to Cartier collectors, vintage Cartier collectors, for smaller is better. As far as celebrities are concerned, credit has to go to Kanye on the Cartier crash, obviously. He started that whole craze. And again, she was wearing a white gold mini, which is the part of the trio when they shrunk the Royal Oaks. Again, when they shrunk the Royal Oaks, no, these things existed before. They had tiny little Royal Oaks back in the day, right? Accidental, I highly doubt it. Obviously something that I'm sure some AP had something to do with this. This was some kind of a thing, because I think, or it could have just simply been Simone Biles, oh, you know, I really want that watch, and contacted AP, and they're just like, here, pick whichever one you want. Because if she came to me and said, hey, I'm looking for a hat, how much is the LB hat? Not that we sell them. How much is the LB hat? I would gladly give it to her for free. I would also give her a watch for free if she said that a Luxury Bazaar hooked me up. It's all about, again, what I talked about earlier. It's about eyes. Personally, on a personal note, I was watching Simone Biles in the Olympics a multitude of times. I think she's an amazing, amazing athlete, an amazing individual. And oftentimes when I watch her perform, my jaw would drop of some of the stuff that she would do. And I just felt bad for the other Olympians that had to go after her. And just like, there's just no way I can do better. It kind of sucked, but amazing human, amazing watch. Love that choice. I love the minis. And in fact, when I come across a pretty decent deal, maybe a little bit of a later time that they're too new, my wife will wear one as well. And the last one, Konstantin CHAYKIN made all the news by saying, hold my beer, Richard Mille, I'm going to make a thinner watch, right? But what I want to talk about, and that is very, very important. I don't want to underplay it, but this is sort of part of that Geneva Watch Days thing, right? What I do want to talk about is him bringing back the Joker Classic, the one that started it all, right? The original design from 2017, right? He did downsize the case to 40 millimeters, okay? More notably, there is a new movement. But this was introduced in 2017 as a very quirky timepiece, okay? Not really suited for everyone. It wasn't for everybody, right? But it made a lot of waves in the industry. People were like, what the hell is this? And it caught a lot of people's attention, right? He only made 99 pieces, and the original 99 pieces sold out like this, and now you see them online for over retail, right? Of course, that gave birth to all the other variations, the infamous Minions watch that we had drama over here at Luxury Bazaar, right? But again, same thing, trademark white dial. It's made to resemble a smiling face. The regular separated hours and minutes indicators make up the eyes, while the open grinning mouth reveals a cheeky moon face complication. Again, nothing changes minus the size and, of course, the movement. It is now offered in two versions. The traditional color scheme of the original Joker, white dial with the green highlights, or a version in light gray with burgundy and red accents. Retail price, 16,900 Swiss. Konstantin CHAYKIN makes these watches relatively affordable in comparison to some of the other independents. I'm happy to see this come back. It just shows that the popularity of Konstantin has risen to different levels. Of course, making the world's thinnest watch will get people's attention as well, not to mention the grand complication with all the astronomical complications that I talked about a couple of Watch News Weeklies ago. Guys, that's it. Remember, stay tuned for the video on Geneva Watch Days. I'm taking you behind the scenes across a lot of different things. It's going to be a longer video, but it's going to be a very interesting video that's going to be on my channel, Roman Sharf. Other than that, as always, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.